All right. I would say, first of all, I want to commend the guys. When you practice 3 days like we did, and then go on spring break, and then come back with our first day back, I like the energy today. I thought that it was very intentional in the way that they practiced. That was a good job by the coaches of getting them into that space. I actually thought it was really good today. We had some elements. The ball got wet. It was a little bit of a mist. It was a little bit of slick, and you have to learn how to play in the different elements, come the fall. So I think on that aspect of it, that was positive. I think at the end of the day, one of the key messages we've been talking to the team about, especially evaluating the first week, is you can't get complacent as a player. Regardless of who you were a year ago, whether you were an All-American, an All-Conference, a starter, maybe a reserve player, a special team player, maybe a redshirt, maybe you're a newcomer here and this is your first time here. You can't just say, hey, all right, that's where I am and this is where I'm supposed to be. We have to continue to strive and work for more and not fall into the same habits. And we're always trying to create new habits to raise our level of play. And I think that's been one of the key messages going into today, and will be a key message throughout this week and then throughout the rest of spring, where we can continue to grow as a program. And the only way you can do that is growing individually as players. And so that'll be something that we'll focus on as we continue to move forward.
Coach Malik seemed like he was back out there. Can you talk about him? I guess it's technically his first spring practice since he's been here.
Yeah.
And also, are you expecting him to push Quinn, this spring as well?
Yeah, I think I'll talk about Malik here real quick first. It was great to have Malik back out there. Again, he had a minor setback at the end of winter conditioning. We were probably a little bit conservative with him that first week, thinking, okay, if we back off him the first week of spring ball and give him spring break, then he can get back and be going back again here in the second week of spring ball. So that was positive to have him back out there. I think one key, and I know we like talking about the quarterback position, open competition is really healthy for everybody, right? Everybody should feel like, man, if I can push myself to perform at a higher level and ultimately push the guys around me, whether the guys in front of me on the depth chart or behind me, that everybody's play should step up. And it's easy to point to the quarterback competition. Every position's an open competition. I can't tell a guy right now, hey, at whatever position is, he's the starter regardless. Everybody should be striving to be the best that they can be. We've got a long way till we play, right, in September. So ultimately, yeah, can Malik push Quinn? Of course he can. How far can he take it? Quinn's job is to keep raising his level of play so he can't catch him, right? And that should be at every position across the board.
You talk about the complacency. Was that a problem in the past, or?
No, it wasn't a problem at all. I think it's like anything, right? My job as a head coach is to continually try to motivate our players to be the best that they can be. And I just don't want that to settle in, right? I don't want them to feel like, hey, I'm good. Whoever I am, whatever I am, I'm good. We all have room for improvement. Coaches, players, everybody, right? And I just don't want them to feel like, hey, this is where I'm at. I was a reserve player last year. That's what I'm going to be this year. Everybody has an opportunity to grow and to get better. And I just don't want anyone to settle in to think, well, this is what I am. And so that was the message. Okay, we went through the first week of spring ball. We had spring break. We have 4 really quality weeks to go where we all can improve. And I just don't want anybody to get complacent, to feel like, well, this is my job or this is what I'm supposed to be doing and everything's great. There's more for everybody to do and to do it at a higher level.
Sark, Jonathan Brooks back out there. Can you just talk about where he is and what you're seeing from him?
I thought Jonathan looked good today. First day back. Obviously, coming off the surgery in the off season. He looks strong. You can feel like his body's changing. Definitely a confident player. He's going into year 3. And that's a positive thing. That room has got great competition as well. We don't have Keelan out there yet, but to have Keelan and Jonathan and Blue and Cedric Baxter, Savion Red, that room's going to be solid. And we know there's going to be, a new face or 2 or whatever it looks like compared to what it looked like a year ago. So to have Jonathan back is a real positive for us.
And is Nair, is he a full participant?
No, we're monitoring reps, obviously, but it was, again, good to get him. He looked as good as he's looked. And I think his rehab has gone really well for him, not only physically but mentally. Anytime you have surgery like that, as much as it is the physical rehab, it's the mental rehab. But I think that he's dialed into it. I think that gradually working him back in at the rate that we're going is a good sign for where we need to be come the fall.
How was the break? Was everyone as mature as you were hoping for over the time off?
Yeah, you guys didn't write anything, so no, it went well. Proud of our guys. Hey, they're in college and they need to enjoy spring break. This is being a Division I football player, Power 5 football player at the University of Texas. We ask a lot of them. We ask a lot of them as athletes. We ask a lot of them as students. And so when they have opportunities to enjoy being in college, hey, I welcome that. But making good choices and decisions, and I think our guys did a really nice job of that last week.
With some of the other limited guys, I think it was Gilbo and Jalen Catalon. What do you have them doing now that spring break's back?
Gilbo's just kind of on the regiment of his rehab. He's in a good phase of where he's supposed to be. He's had no setbacks. Obviously, Catalan, we had to go in and clean a few things up, so he'll be limited for now. But again, he's an experienced player. That one doesn't concern me. I didn't want that to linger come the fall, so we wanted to make sure we took care of a few things for him getting ready for the season.
Is it a scope, or can you go to more details with the?
No, I can't go into details.
How's Cam Williams doing? Is he?
I think Cam's doing well. Cam is a guy that, I think impressed everybody when he first got here with his ability to move. For such a big man, he's got really good feet. He's got a really high football IQ. I credit he and Coach Becton and his staff. I think his body has really changed. Not only has he lost weight, but he's gotten stronger, and that's a good sign. So, again, he's pushing for a spot in that 5. And like we tell the linemen all the time, and Coach Flood and I have believed this at all 3 of our stops that we've been together, we want to play the best 5 guys. And so not trying to pigeonhole guys and he's a tackle or he's a guard or he's a left tackle or he's a right tackle, whatever you are, hey, we'll get you out there and we'll find the best 5 to get out there. And I always think about Evan Neal when we had him in Alabama. He started as a left guard for us. In year 2, then he went and played right tackle. In year 3, then he went and played left tackle. So it's about finding that right combination of the right 5 guys, and Cam's pushing for a spot in there.
Sark, with the competition at the edge, I think when Souls kind of proved themselves, who else has stood out early for you?
Well, I think Ethan Burke has done a nice job. I think that we've seen flashes out of him. I think we've seen flashes out of Jamon Tapp. I think there's some position flexibility in Jure Bledsoe. I like the prospect of Colton Vosick. I hate it if I'm leaving somebody out, but again, we got a long way to go at that spot. I think Sorrell clearly, with the experience that he's had, that he's played with, feel strongly about that. And if we can create more activity out of him, I think he had 5.5 sacks last year. If he is that frontline guy for us, can we get that number up closer to 10? What would that look like for us as a defense? So, but in the end, we're always trying to find complementary players and how do we generate that pass rush that we so want, right? I think we're one of the top teams in the country at pressuring the quarterback a year ago. We didn't always get the sack numbers, but we got pressure on the quarterback. But ideally, we'd like to get the sack number up because that means we're creating negative plays, and it probably means we're getting off the field on 3rd down, which is a huge point of emphasis for us this spring and then going into the fall.
Coach, you're getting more and more guys showing up in January as freshmen. Can you give me some examples of the advantages kids like that they have over guys that come in the fall, and how hard is it for guys that show up in the summer when they're they're a little behind certain counterparts?
I think that there's some distinct advantages. I think the first time you go to class when you come in spring, you don't have a game that next Saturday, right? You can really kind of get acclimated to school life. I think getting winter conditioning, getting the install, and then getting into spring practice and getting those 15 practices, getting ahead in school for earlier graduation down the road. But in the end, just because you come in spring doesn't mean you're that much ahead and doesn't mean you're going to be ahead of the guys that come in the summer. Kelvin Banks is a prime example. We didn't get him until the summer. He ended up being about a day one starter for us at left tackle. So it's, everybody's different when they show up, and it's more about the intent that you have when you show up. How intentional are you to be the best player, to develop your body, to learn the system, to be the student, to get acclimated academically? So it's more about the intentions that you have when you arrive rather than when you show up.
I don't know if this is a case-by-case basis, but when you bring in a new assistant coach, do you tell them, hey, just go be you, go do you, or is there a sense of feeling out their players, and how's Chris kind of doing with that?
I think our rapport with Chris, it just felt very natural from the moment that he arrived. Even in his interview, and then when he arrived, I just think he's got great rapport with the offensive staff and the staff as in general. And then I think that carried right over. I think he's got good rapport with the players. Now, naturally, you're learning personalities as you go. I think systematically for Chris, our system and where he's coming from in Jacksonville and then in Chicago, a lot of similarities there. So it weren't a bunch of concepts that were just foreign to him. It made sense. So a lot of it is, I do want him to be him. That's why we hired him. I don't want just a robot that's coaching the position. And I think that he brings a lot of value to the organization that way. But so far so good. I love what he's bringing.
Steve, can you talk about the competition at weak side linebacker to replace DeMarvion and at corner?
Yeah. The linebacker thing, we've got a lot of depth there. All of a sudden it went from, okay, what are we going to do with DeMarvion being gone? And then Jalen decides to come back, and so that's great having him back. And I think just kind of the development of Jet Bush has been positive. The development of Mo Blackwell has been a real positive. David Benda had the best offseason he's had since we've been here, and it showed up in his play, not only on defense but on special teams. The influx of Leonga Lafau and Anthony Hill. So it's a very strong position for us, not only defensively, but that linebacking core is critical to our success on special teams as well. I mean, Demo provided a lot on teams for us. So we feel good about it. I think it's a real positive right now. Sorry, and then at the corner position, it's a great competition, right? We got a lot of good players, a lot of good-looking athletes. Obviously, Ryan Watts with the, kind of success he had last year. Gavin Holmes, experienced player. Terrence Brooks, what he did at the second half of last season. I love kind of the development of Xavion Bryce. Malik Muhammad has stepped in and is a very competitive young man. Love what he brings. And then it gives us versatility, right, with a Jade Barron or a Austin Jordan, guys of that nature, where we can move them around, maybe play them at nickel some. So all in all, we're just trying to create depth. And I think we're finally at a spot now. Somebody mentioned to me coming off the field, it feels good to have depth, even in spring practice. And so that both those two positions, I think you kind of touched on. Man, we've got much better depth than I think we've had in the previous 2 years.
With Mo, you've moved him to a bunch of different spots in his time here, but now you have him in that will. Yeah. How's he acclimating to that? And is he a player that maybe plays above his weight for being maybe slighter compared to other middle linebackers?
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking at his weight today. He was 215. And that DeMarvion kind of fluctuated just above 215, just about into the 220 range. And so I think naturally Mo's maturing, and as we mature, and you really dedicate yourself to your diet and what you're doing, I think we're starting to see that transformation in him. He's a heck of a player. I love the competitive nature of Mo. We asked a lot of him as a true freshman on special teams. He plays violent. He plays tough. I think he plays the way we want to play football, and he provides a lot of versatility. He is working at the weak inside linebacker spot, but we're playing him at Sam and base defense, and he's really good coming off the edge. He's really good on special teams, and he's very intentional in the way that he plays the game.
What have you seen from CJ Baxter so far in terms of getting behind his pads and also his ability in your zone scheme? Yeah,
CJ's a natural runner for sure. And you feel his size. I think he does a really good job of getting behind his pads. He's got a very good stiff arm. Like a lot of good big running backs need to have. They need to have a stiff arm to keep people off their legs. He definitely does that. Seems very natural. He's got good patience. He doesn't get anxious, which sometimes young runners can. They want to hurry up and get to the line of scrimmage, and he trusts his vision. I mean, there's a reason he was the player he was in high school, and we're seeing it now.
Coach, obviously, Brennan is running track, Thompson is running
Yes.
track. So how is he kind of staying engaged, with you guys this spring?
Well, I think that's always challenging when a player plays two sports. When it's not only it can become physically taxing, you've asked him to do both. It can be mentally taxing. Our thing for Brennan is fast is fast, and I feel like him working with Flo and running track this spring is only going to benefit him in the fall from a speed standpoint. His speed is a real factor. We saw a couple glimpses of it last year, and we're hopeful we see more of it in the fall.
Do you and Flo have to have a conversation about how, he works, or do you kind of trust Flo to kind of do this thing, or?
Flo's one of the best in the world at what he does. So I trust Flo's going to make sure that he's running right and running well and in great shape. I think it was funny when Brennan first went out. I think football shape and track shape are two different things. And I think that, getting it back on the track was a challenge for him early on. But, I trust Flo. Obviously we have to work together from a scheduling standpoint of what that looks like for Brennan. But at the end, we'll get a good player back. Schematically, he's been in the system for a year. He's just got to get back in the fold in the summer when we get going.
Are you looking to hire a special assistant on offense, and are you thinking Gary might get bored and come back and help you out now?
I don't know. I never close the door on those types of positions. There's a lot of really good coaches that, for whatever reason, sometimes are out of work for a year. I keep the line of communication open. Some guys are still trying to figure out what they want to do, and if this is something they want to do, and if it's a good fit, we'll bring them in. But I don't know. Again, you just try to keep a line of communication open, and like I said, you can never have enough good people. And as long as they're bought into the role, because the role is different, right? And you go from being a head coach or a coordinator, and now you come in as an analyst type and special assistant type. That's different. I did it for a year. It's definitely different, but there's a lot of benefits on that side of it to look at, how things are done from a different lens. But there's a lot of benefit for us too when you get a lot of expertise that can walk into the building.
Between recruiting and the clinic y'all have this weekend,
Yeah.
a lot going on your plate. How exciting is it to see that much?
Got match play this week too. Just kidding.
But, I mean, when you have a big weekend like that where you're not only hosting peers but also recruits, just how much does that build energy within this building?
That's awesome. We love it. So obviously Friday we've got our coaches clinic. Really excited about that. Our keynote is Kyle Shanahan's coming back from the 49ers, and who's done an unbelievable job with his career and where he's gotten to, and to get him back here as an alum is great, and we've got a great relationship, and so that's going to be fun on Friday. And then Saturday we've got a big junior day and a big cookout, so it'll be fun to just be around it. And I think that energy, not only as a staff, is beneficial, but I think for our players too. We're going to go out to practice on Saturday, and there's going to be a lot of people there. There's going to be coaches, there's going to be recruits, there's going to be families, and sometimes in spring ball you're kind of like, what? You're just practicing. All of a sudden you show up at practice, and there's a fair amount of people there that should be motivating and create some energy for everybody.
Coach, I think we are legally required to ask you at least one Arch question per session. So can you just give us maybe an update on how he's looking so far?
Yeah, I thought Arch I would say today was his best day, which should happen. Hopefully we've learned from week one and some of the things of whether it's the pace of play, whether it's the system, whether it's recognition of defense, whether it's ball placement, whatever that looks like. And I thought today definitely was his best day.
Coach,
Time for two last ones?
You talked to Coach, or you sat with Coach Terry last night. What advice did you give him? Or
I was fired up for him, man. I mean, obviously, first of all, I think Coach Schaefer had a heck of a year. Going to the women's game last night was a great environment. I know it was not the way he wanted it to end, but it was a heck of a season. And for Coach Terry, the job that he's done has just been I text him after every game, you're an inspiration, to step into that role, handle adversity the way he has, and to lead that team. fired up for those guys Friday night. So to go along with the coaches clinic and the junior day and practice, we got a big hoops game Friday night. So pumped for those guys. We'll definitely be pulling for them.
At the receiver position, Jonte and DeAndre coming in as high school, recruits. What has stood out about them, and is there anything that's maybe a little ahead of where you might have thought?
Well, I think the one thing you notice with both of them, they've both have been really well coached. Whether it's fundamentals and techniques or even scheme, that they've been around a lot of football. It doesn't feel like it's completely foreign to them, and it's allowed them to play fast, right? And they haven't been perfect. I mean, there's still errors that occur, and believe me, they're going to have errors. It's the practice 4 of spring ball of their first spring practice of their career here, but their ability to kind of digest systematically and fundamentally and techniques and what we're trying to do, and then apply it in practice for true freshmen has been pretty impressive.
Because Worthy was that way.
The same thing, though, like we touched on earlier, these guys are here now. Xavier didn't show up until the summer, right? So they've got a little bit of a head start, so hopefully they can keep leaning into that and have an impact on the team.
Last one, anybody?
Do you have any predictions for this weekend for the men?
Oh, man, I just want them to play well. I love how our guys play. I love how our women play. We play hard. We play tough. We defend. And obviously we facing a really good opponent. So, I just want those guys to go out and play well, and, hopefully we can make them enough plays there in the end.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Coach.